welcome back to the Indigenous Projects and Events Speakers Bureau YouTube series. My name is Natasha Delany, and of course, I'm founder and executive director of Indigenous Projects and Events. Through our Speakers and Facilitators Bureau, we are proud to connect schools, organizations, conferences, communities, and event planners with Indigenous speakers, facilitators, knowledge keepers, artists, entrepreneurs, and leaders who bring powerful stories, teachings, and lived experiences into the spaces that they serve. This series was created to help introduce the incredible people within our Bureau so that future clients can get to know who they are, what they offer, and how their voice, their knowledge, and their leadership can support meaningful learning, connection, and impact. Today, I'm super excited to welcome Geraldine Carriere. She's somebody that I've worked with many times in the past and had the pleasure of working with for the past few years. Geraldine is a multidisciplinary Indigenous artist, entrepreneur, Indigenous international speaker, best-selling author, business coach, performer, and scholar from Cumberland House Cree Nation. She's founder of Wild Woman Personal and Professional Development, the Carriere Show, and the Indigithrive Excellence Centers, where she supports Indigenous women, youth, entrepreneurs, and communities through mentorship, creative leadership, personal development, and community-based entrepreneurship. She has over 20 years of experience in speaking, facilitation, human resources, training, publishing, business coaching, so many things, performance, project management, emceeing, and she brings a powerful blend of Indigenous knowledge, storytelling, ceremony, language, leadership, and creativity into her work. So in today's episode, we're going to learn more about Jer's story, the work that she does, and the knowledge that she carries, and how she supports others through speaking, through facilitation, and all of the amazing work that she does. So please join me in welcoming Geraldine Carriere. Thanks for joining us, Geraldine.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. That was quite the mouthful.
That was a lot. You do so many amazing things out in community.
Well, and I mean, it's funny to hear it back whenever, you're at an event or whatever it is, people are reading this bio and it's just like, okay, we're going to roll out the scroll now. And again, even from my perspective, it seems like a lot. But again, I'm just so, excited to be able to, fulfill these roles and of course to be in a position that I am. So thanks so much for having me on the podcast and of course this opportunity.
So tell us a little bit about, where you're from, Cumberland House Cree Nation. How was it like for you growing up? Were you raised on reserve or off reserve? And yeah, how was that for you? And how did that, your growing up, kind of transition or grow into who you are today and what you do?
Right. So I am originally from a Métis settlement in Saskatchewan. It's called Cumberland House, and of course there is a First Nation that is a part of it. And
Okay.
so yeah, so initially, I was I think 1 years old when my mom, took us out of the community, just of course because she wanted more opportunity, and she didn't see that being in the small community would give us the kind of opportunities that she wanted, both for herself but for her children. So she
Right.
decided very early on that she would, of course, relocate us. Again, her being very entrepreneurial herself, wanted to create herself and, find a different way. And so that I grew up in mostly urban settings, kind of all throughout Saskatchewan. I lived in Edmonton for a bit and then in Vancouver, not Vancouver, BC, Prince George specifically. And
Oh,
so again,
right.
how did that shape my reality and my work? I think it shaped a lot of the way that I go about in the world because, of course, growing up in outside of your community, you are kind of always an outsider. And, I
Yeah.
faced a lot of things like racism, ostracization, all those different things. And again, people don't understand what's different. And I think it was only when I was in those rooms with different nationalities, different races, that I recognized that there was something different about me. And for some reason, it made people want to make, sly comments, or, these stereotypes that, Indigenous people have to deal with. And so I always felt that it was very rude, and
Yeah.
I felt it wasn't justified that, people would look down upon me just because, of course, where I came from. And so because of that, I think that really built my identity, in that I wanted to advocate for the underdog. I wanted to be a person who advocated for people who didn't necessarily fit in or were understood or whatever it was. So I think that really shaped who I was. But always, I was always in a position to educate people and to, give them awareness. So I didn't really take it in an offense sense. It was more so, oh, this is an opportunity for growth and connection. So again, going through high school, I then moved back to my home community when I was about 13, 14. So that was the first time I actually got a firsthand experience of, my indigeneity and, culture and what that looked like. And again, because my community is Métis, we were very colonized. We thought we were mostly French people. And so there weren't a lot of, cultural and heritage ceremonial type of things that we did, right? I think the furthest we went was jigging. And so, which was also
And how to
incredible.
jig?
I didn't make the jigging team, which is funny. Yeah, I did try out, but
You
yeah,
tried out.
they had better dancers for sure at the time.
Okay.
Yeah, so and then again, coming from an urban setting into a First Nation,
Yeah.
same thing. People don't like what's different. And again, I had, the city twang, and everyone's like, oh, you're just a city girl. And so it became very apparent to me at a very young age that, hey, you're not, white enough to be a white person, and you're not dark enough to be an Indian. So it was like, well, I'm just going to be whoever I want to be then, right? So I think that that also carried into my work because, again, I think a lot of us, we are trying to carve our path in whatever work that we're doing. And we have to fight not only societal constraints or what people want us to be, but we also have to do that within ourselves, right? So I struggled a lot with, rejection, abandonment, worthiness, not enoughness. And I think again, those also added to, I didn't want anybody else to feel the things that I felt. So that's why I developed the things that I did. So again, in high school, because I was very outspoken and I like to assert my opinions. And so I was always the kid in school that would keep everybody after class because I'd be asking questions from the teachers being like, well, why am I learning this, and who is this in accordance to, and who's going to benefit from this, right? So because of that, I would tell everybody, first I'm going to be a lawyer, then I'm going to be a judge, then I'm going to be the first female Indigenous Prime Minister of Canada. And it's funny when I talk about this on stages, I get an ovation for that, but it's more so like I didn't really want the title or the role. It was the impact and the ability to connect with people and to reach people and to inspire them to, create change and to be, that voice of, the whoever it is that you're speaking on behalf of. That is why I wanted to be in a position like that, to be able to again create legacy in every room that I went in. So basically, fast forward, I went, worked for an organization called the Saskatchewan Indian Gaming Authority. I then switched gears and I did that for 8 years, kind of started frontline, went all the way up to HR manager, and then
Did
went
you
in.
have any education yet when you
Oh,
started
I
that for the?
literally just started right from high school. I was the valedictorian of my class, of course,
Oh,
because I was
okay.
very,
Yeah, yeah, that's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah. So I was
Was
already like
that
giving
like a
speeches
mostly
in high
Métis
school.
school?
Pardon?
Was that a Métis school that you went to?
Yeah,
Or
so it was called Charlebois, which apparently is like a priest back in the day. And also, my community is the first Métis settlement. It's the oldest settlement in Saskatchewan. It's the first fur trade post and the biggest man-made marsh in the world. So
what?
yeah. So again, already in high school, I was already giving speeches and was kind of pushed into a position of, speaking on behalf of people. One thing really stood out for me in those days was I was chosen to go to a lot of different conferences. And there was
Mm,
one in particular that I went to at Parliament Hill. So I spent a whole week at Parliament Hill with a bunch of different leaders throughout Canada. And
amazing.
I think it was like the second last day. And again, remember, I struggled with all of these. I'm not good enough. Why am I here? And
Sorry.
so
Yeah.
I think it was like the second last day. I was there. And again, I'm seeing all these, rich white kids, and they're, they come from good backgrounds, and, they're carrying the torch of their family. And here I am. I'm like, what am I doing here? And so it was the second last day. They said, now we're going to break you guys up in groups, and you guys are going to give us a speech. And so at that point, of course, I got lumped with the other Indigenous kids because you're the Indigenous kid. And all of the other ones were from Nunavut. When I went into the room with them, they were like, oh, wow, like I thought you were like, a white girl and that you lived in the city. And I'm like, no, I live in the First Nation just like you. Second last day of the conference. And of course, they kind of distributed everybody in different groups. And of course, being the Indigenous kid, I got lumped with the other Indigenous kids. The other ones that were there was only three other Indigenous kids, and they were from Nunavut. And so, of course, we go into the room, and, because I had that, ability to, just advocate for stuff, I was like, okay, what do you guys face in your communities? And they were like, I don't know. And I was like, okay, I grabbed the whiteboard. I'm like, I face this, and this is what we face, and this is what we struggle with. They're like, yeah, me too, me too. And from that point, we, came up with a whole speech, and I said, guys, I will write this thing, but there's no way that I'm going up on that stage and I'm going to give this speech in front of all of those people. Like, no way. So one of y'all got to figure it out. And so one of the
Was
guys,
Yeah. Go
yeah,
ahead. Yeah. Okay.
one of the guys was like, okay, I guess I'll do it. So, okay, we left. Great. Thank you so much. Here's the paper. Go and, write up a speech. And then again, the next morning, we got up early. I showed up early, of course, just because I'm like that. And
Yeah.
I wrote like just a little measly speech just because I was bored. And then basically,
You wrote a measly speech because you were bored.
I know, right? And then so everybody shows up, and I'm like, okay, show me your speech, right? And the guy was like, I didn't write anything. And I'm like, oh my God. So I give him my speech. I'm like, here. And so the speech was timed out. We were the last ones to present. And again, all of these different people spoke about specific things. And again, the guy did the speech. He was right on time, and the kid got a standing ovation.
Oh
And
my
like
God.
reporters were swarming him, and everybody it was insane. Like the amount, it was just fantastic. Yeah. And so I was standing in the back, and I was like, oh, ooh. And he was right at the front, and I like beelined it right to him, and I like grabbed the speech out of his hand. And I said, never again will I let somebody, benefit off the hard work that I've done. And I still have that piece of paper to this day. I still have that blazer that I bought for the first time. And that was such a big pinnacle moment for me, which was, things like that aren't necessarily hard for me because I think that I'm very in line in my purpose. And I think that, the hardest thing for me is to overcome my own, not enoughness. I'm not smart. I'm not this, but it's my duty to deliver the message that I have. And so that was one of the many times that I, was reminded that you're a leader. All you got to do is be brave enough just to show up and deliver the message. So, yeah. And
Amazing.
stuff like that just continued to happen. I worked for CBC News as a reporter. I worked for many different organizations, across Canada and North America. And then, of course, I worked with my publisher where I taught around the world people how to write books and build businesses and speaking on indigeneity and matriarchy. And then, of course, I got recruited into the musical theater group Bear Grease, again, which was also advocacy for our people, right? So everything I've done has always been to shine a light and have a platform for Indigenous voices, our stories, the way that we look at the world. And now, of course, having my own business, doing the things that I do, and now getting my master's in Indigenous business leadership is just another reason and a kind of a nod at this is what you're supposed to be doing, right? So that's basically me in a nutshell.
Yeah. So you just finished, or you're you've completed your master's now. Is that right?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Yes.
So
Thank
now,
you.
like, what, because you've done such a broad array of different things and you're a singer also. So
Yes.
what what do you envision for yourself in the future? Because I know that you had and also have like these goals in all of these different areas.
Right. So one of my dreams is, of course, to get my centers off the ground. So I have something called Indigithrive, which again are excellence centers. And so basically, they're kind of like big brother, big sister after school clubs where kids can come in, and at any given time, there's a plethora of different rooms that are going on at the same time, and different facilitators teaching people, whether it's to public speak, whether it's to be a performer, whether it's to be an actress, or an entrepreneur, even something as simple as being a person who works in a post office, right? And when people hear about this, I'm saying this is for each. So basically, the way I want it is to be a hub in main urban centers, and then it branches out to the First Nations itself. So when I say having a post office worker or a janitor or people who are working in your communities right now,
Right.
those people's jobs are so important, right? So yes, not everybody wants to be an astronaut, not everybody wants to be a doctor. Some people want to be artists, some people want to just stay in the community and they want to give back. And so again, this gives everybody that is part of the community gets to be featured as the subject matter expert in their field, and then teaches that and passes that torch on to the next generation. So if you're a young person that comes into the excellence centers, you're interested, hey, maybe I want to be a public speaker, maybe I want to be a janitor, maybe I want to be a mechanic, but there are people there that are going, and it's going to be roving, right? It's not always going to be the same. And they're going to be able to get on hands-on experience to be able to identify, hey, this is something that comes naturally to me, this is something that I love and something that I want to do, and not keeping it that it's just one stagnant thing, because we grow over time, we want to do different things. So again, we as Indigenous people are entrepreneurial by spirit. So again, giving kids those skills and tools hands on to be able to determine if that's something that they want to explore will just put them in a better position for them to actually invest in themselves in a way that's going to be fulfilling. So that's my dream, is to create those all across North America, and to be able to, be in a strategic position where I'm able to develop those, make them more efficient, and of course to be able to, travel across. And at the end of the day, I would like them to put on, these performances, and them, I want to see it in real time happening, right? So again, that's one of my dreams, is to basically put people in a position where they're highlighted for their expertise, and to be able to pass that forward in service leadership to the next generation of Indigenous leaders. So
That's amazing. I love that idea so much. Tell us about your book. Where can people find your book?
yeah, so my book, of course, I am published in two other books, which is chapter books of different business books. The full length book is called Wild Woman, Master the Art of Pride, Presence, and Productivity. And so basically, the essence of the book is that, of course, it's matriarchy, right? It's all indigeneity. It is, two-eyed seeing in the world. And so basically what I believe is that, we are born into the world, and I use the metaphor of a house, right? So we inherit a house, which is our mind, our body, our spirit. And sometimes we have dishes in our house that we don't like, we have curtains we don't like, which were inherited from our parents. So those can be things like our thinking patterns, our behaviors, the way that we look at the world. And once we get to a certain age, we can kind of determine, hey, that's their belief and I don't necessarily believe in that, and this is what I believe instead. So you are empowered to make decisions about what is beneficial to you and the type of person that you want to become. Once you know who you are, you have a sense of pride. So that pride is, again, the healthy pride, which you have conviction in your word, you have willpower, self-love, and then you turn that into something I call presence, which of course is the way that you conduct yourself, right? So again, who you have around you, the jobs and the positions that you create, how you represent yourself and your brand on social media, right? Those type of things. It is your presence. When you walk into the room, what's your energy? And then from there, I then turn that into something I call productivity, which again is you didn't go through all the stuff you went through to go through it. You went through it to be able to help somebody not have to go through it at all or get through it faster. So again, everything is about service leadership, and that again is an Indigenous worldview. That's what the book is about. People, of course, can reach out to me on my website, which is wildwomanwithin.me. You can find it on Amazon, and even if you just go into Google, either put Geraldine Carriere, or simply Wild Woman, it'll pop up for you.
That's super amazing. So, in terms of your speaking, in terms of your emceeing, in terms of your facilitations, what are you looking to do more of? What is your favorite thing to speak about? And what are the audiences that you're really hoping to reach?
Wow, that's a big question. I think it, again, because it's really funny. I had an interview the other day, and it's funny how you come to these questions and you get asked these questions, and it just kind of comes together for you. I think for me, it is that philosophy of the two-eyed seeing. So what that means is we're taking Indigenous values, ways of knowing, being, and doing, and bridging it with Western ways of technology and science, and building a bridge between both people, because of course we need each other. We will excel when we work together. So again, it's understanding that there is a marriage that needs to be created so we can all be harmonious and balanced, and that's within ourselves, right? So I, again, want to attract Indigenous leaders, innovators, creators, people who want to develop and master their skills to be able to give that to the next generation of people. But I'm also looking for people who are of the Western world that also want to be an ally and to help push those agendas, that message to the world that, hey, we need each other. We can benefit from, your demographic or your industry, and vice versa, right? So again, it's also creating, relevancies and transparencies, equivalencies, if you will, between the different worlds, right? So again, traditional knowledge, Indigenous knowledge keepers, the sacredity of, how we live within the land, and then bringing that to the non-Indigenous world. And again, bringing that together so we can be more effective. And so, did I answer the question? I
Yeah,
think
and
so.
then
That's
I
my
know,
main.
yeah, and that's super amazing, and something that I found not just in my own work, but then also across these interviews that I've done, where I've interviewed so many different Indigenous leaders within various industries, medical. I interviewed somebody earlier this week, and she is in furniture design. Her design is beautiful, and we had a similar conversation in terms of integrating ways of knowing, being, and doing into what did she say? To an art form, to physically manifest it into some sort of art form, whether that's a totem pole, or whether that's furniture, or whether that's through song, dance, so many different expressions. And so definitely something that is needed, and is something that can be carried, a topic that can be carried on through a variety of different industries. Um, I
Absolutely.
know that we've talked also in the past about your HR experience, and I'm not sure if when you also do facilitation, which is slightly different than speaking and emceeing, but as you're creating your next list of workshops, facilitation workshops, what does what topics do those align with, and what do you have, and what are you working on in terms
Right.
of those workshops?
Absolutely. So yeah, I do have a list here that I wanted to run through with you, just to kind of give you a little. Kind of call it my a la carte menu service, if you will. And so there's different things like becoming a wild woman, right? So again, that's for young women and girls who want to have that self confidence, identity work, healing, and personal growth. I have something called the Entrepreneurship 101, which again is a tool for economic independence and a pathway to community empowerment. Again, I have executive thinking, which is for strategic high level thinkers. And again, it draws from the EMBA frameworks of Indigenous leadership principles. I have something called the leadership training, which again is relational training. So again, it's things are done through trust, accountability, and service to others. I also have a Ladies of Excellence program, which of course is again helping women to develop, again, the professionalism, the personal growth. And so again, that social presence and life skills, which again is who we are as women, right? So it's that matriarchal design behind being a woman in society. Also, again, there's the Indigithrive program, which we kind of talked about a little bit about. I have something called the generational planning, which is thinking long term, right? So what are the generational impacts of the work that you're doing in your communities? How is that going to benefit people, not only in 5 and 10 years, but 20 and 50, right? So again, it's thinking more future based and positive outlook, and again, KPI metric ways. I have something called Dream Big, which again is more geared towards youth and young people, again, so seeing beyond their current circumstances and again imagining new possibilities, right? Again, things like goal setting, future exploration, identifying strengths, goals, and future pathways. I have something called the Wild Woman Way, which again is one of my signature programs, and is one of how I coach women and girls through a transformational journey back to themselves. Again, another one would be Becoming Her, which is an Indigenous rites of passage experience. So what that is, becoming the woman that you were always intended to be, developing things like identity, responsibility, and womanhood. And then, of course, I have a new program that I've created for this special endeavor, which is called the New Standard, which is an Indigenous cultural competency training. So it's basically braided wisdom, walking within two worlds with integrity and impact, right? So how do we benefit and how do we talk to each other in a way that we both feel both a high sense of dignity and purpose in the work that we do with each other. So that just kind of gives you a bird's eye view into the different type of frameworks and workshops that I'm offering currently.
Yeah, for that last one, can you elaborate more on who the target audience would be for that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that one it's cultural competency training. So again, it would be for non-First Nation organizations, people who, like I said, wanting to fulfill those reconciliation frameworks. They want to get into the conversation. They want to embody what does it actually mean to be an ally? What does it actually mean to reconcile and to be walking with Indigenous people and truly embodying what that means in Canada, right? So it is mostly geared towards non-First Nations organizations and people who are wanting to attract, retain, and maintain Indigenous employees.
Amazing. So if, say, an organization is like even doing contracted work with a First Nation community or a First Nation organization, would this training be beneficial for them?
Absolutely, because I mean, there's so much that goes into relationship building and building trust, right? Again, I worked in human resources for many years where I heard conversations, and this was like 20 years ago already, and people were saying, how do we attract Indigenous people? Do we just put a teepee in front of our building and people will want to come? And it's like, oh, that's cute. But no, you have to, fulfill protocols, and there are ways of going about doing things in a respectful way. So again, having those conversations with the communities, touching base with elders, and seeing if your idea is even something that's worthwhile to the community. And then if it isn't, finding different ways to obviously advance your agenda and to advance the agendas of the First Nations itself, because this is not a one way of doing things. It's all based on, again, the location, the history of the people, their different, language and customs. So again, it's very important for non-First Nations people to understand all of these things that go into building trust, reciprocity, and relationship building with First Nations people. So yes, it's critical and crucial.
Yeah, I totally feel like that. Like everything that you've talked about is, of course, super amazing and super needed. Um, just knowing, I'm a huge networker, and so networking with a bunch of non-Indigenous business owners, and them, that's a really big question that I get asked a lot is like, okay, we've signed a client, it's this First Nation, now how do we do business with them, right? And strengthen that relationship without feeling the need to be walking on eggshells or making any kind of mistakes. Because we're
Yeah.
human beings, like we're gonna make mistakes. So what does
Yeah.
that look like?
Well, and also, like, the other part of it is there is the attraction mechanism, but also, like I had said, the maintenance of it, right? So you don't just come one time and then, oh, we have a deal where it's done. that has to continuously happen, right? So you have to understand how to motivate, and how to understand the, different learning techniques, the different ways to create that sustenance in the relationship. It is ongoing and it's a forever thing, right? Just like the treaties, what do they say? As long as the grass grows and the river flows, these are things that are going to be in place, until the end of time. So again, you have to be strategic in the way that you're aligning with these ways of doing business.
I love that. Thank you so much. Where can people follow you on social media?
Well, like I said, of course, you can look me up, Geraldine Carriere, Jer Carriere, or of course, just put into Google Wild Woman, and I'll pop up. Yes.
Awesome. And we'll also have her links within the show notes. Please follow Geraldine to see all of the amazing things that she's currently up to, and like and subscribe to this podcast to continue to follow her journey, reach out to Indigenous projects and events, to book Geraldine for speaking, facilitation, emceeing. We've had her MC at our Indigithrive pitch night that we do in partnership with Edmonton Unlimited here. She is just so full of energy, and I just love it when she shows up. So thank you so much for being here, Geraldine.
Thank you so much for having me, and congratulations on all your success as well. I love to see you shine.
Thank you. Hey, hi. Bye.
Bye.